do you have the first question, Colin?
Absolutely. How do you beat Legionaries with Intercession on ITD?
So this was actually I've like summarized this question, I think, into its like core question, because there was a whole bunch of um, like logic and justification going into it. But I've tried to take this. So the first thing I'm going to say about this is it is a really tough matchup, right? And it does favour Legionary, in my opinion, right? So I think generically, I think this matchup is Legionary's matchup to lose rather than Intercessions to win, right? And sort of the patron that was asking it talks about how they've already switched over to bolters. They're already trying to use the double tap method. They are already using lethal 5 and P1, which is like great equipment choices, right? Because particularly against Nurgle, if you're min damage 3, well, you don't really care about the like 4 damage buff, right? Because it just does nothing for you. And therefore, actually always activating that P1 is so useful. And you're going to be rolling 4 dice with 1 reroll, 5 dice looking for a single 5 up. You'll be really annoyed if you don't get P1. So you should be getting that AP1, which is really, really good for just forcing through regular damage. But they're already doing that, right? And so the sort of the question then is, right, so I'm doing all these things, but it's still not working for me. So what else can I do? And so I've got a few more like hints and tips other than just saying I'm really sorry, it's a tough matchup, and if your opponent's like a really good opponent, then it's always going to be hard. But hopefully this might be useful. So we'll see. So they've been generically trying to play Seek and Destroy, which I think isn't a bad shout. The only issue is that Legionary does kill you better than you kill them, and like you can get stuck in a situation where if your first activation doesn't succeed in killing the guard, then they're probably just going to shoot the person that came in the room and then run away, right? And so they can position in such a way, ignoring injury, they're going to move 9 inches back through a hatchway. You're not going to get that kill. You haven't got route. You're now a Marine down. Them like it's that's the game, right? And that can go so quickly. So there's potential you try and play a bit more positional, and like they are going to kill you. But like if you can try and balance your forces so that you swing the weight of your effort in the correct direction. And one of the guys on the Tony Boy Tactics team, Average Joe, raised this as an idea to me sort of like a few months back, actually. We're talking about a different team, but he talks about having a sort of a denied flank where you effectively just give up, right, on a certain flank, and go, I'm just not going to commit resources to that. And you're going to let them commit their, where it is, 2 Marines to a room that you don't care about, and then you're going to prioritize all 6 of your Marines to fight 4 of theirs. So that's another thing you can look for. And maybe that's playing central control, or, I personally think center line, depending upon the map, is usually pretty good, because if you can get like a hatchway that's on the center line, you can control that. That pairs really nicely with a secure hatchway, so maybe you can force it in a certain direction. And then there's a chance that you can go for escort operative. I think if you do, and you're playing against a seek and destroy opponent, I'd be tempted to make your leader the escort operative. And I know that makes a huge, like, everyone's now trying to kill this guy. But if you can hold him back quite far, and with your other Marines block the routes to him, it then means that it's going to be, well, they're not going to kill him turn 1 because they just can't get the range through the hatches. They're highly likely to kill him turn 2. So now suddenly they're only ever getting 1 point on their headhunter, if they have it. And you then have 2 turning points to get him to the other side of the board, which is quite achievable with a rapid Marine team, right? You can be moving 10 inches a turn. So that's something that I could say you might want to try and have a play with if you're going for that. But anyway, maybe just give security a go if you're finding that they're playing around your eliminate guards. One of the things that he was sort of talking about is the fact that when you're against a good opponent who understands eliminate guards well, they'll know that they shouldn't be standing on the objectives, right? But with an elite team, you can move onto the objective, capture it or loot it, then move so you're no longer on the objective, right? So turning point 2, there is no option for you to select and eliminate guard. And they can keep doing this. So you're now in a horrible situation where you go, right, what do I do now? And and particularly with like Zinch teams, is they can be 4 APL. They can be making their mission actions like cost 2 with a Shrive Talon and that sort of stuff. So they got ways to be really mean with it. So I think you can do the same though, right? So generically, I think they're going to be playing Seek and Destroy. I don't know why they wouldn't. It kind of makes sense. So don't like learn the reciprocal, right? Give them the same problem, but the other way around. And try and like accept that point loss on TP2, potentially on primaries, because you should be going 3-3 really on TP1 unless it's like a weird map. But accept that point loss on TP1 on TP2, so that you can then move back and get it back TP3 and TP4, and really try focusing on just getting sufficient damage out on TP2 is probably what I say is really important, because you are a volume-based damage team and they are a burst-based damage team. So if you don't get the volume out, then they're just going to wipe you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, I would try and kill those Marines early and then go back to scoring on TP3 and TP4. To achieve that you could potentially look at using your barricades like differently. So I would be almost tempted to like not put barricades on the objectives so that they have nowhere to hide, right? So now when your opponent is looking at it, so we got one of two ways. Either you put the barricade such that all your models can reach it from an open doorway on your side moving in, or you just leave it so it's open, because you do volume shooting really well. So if the room is completely empty, you can be stood at the doorway, open the doorway, and double shoot from the doorway. And if they're on the objective, they have to take the damage, or they're just not going to be on the objective, right? So it gives you that flexibility. But that's potentially one option to try and make it a little bit harder for them. I think that's probably the main bits of advice. There might have been something else, but let me know if you have questions back on that. It sounds like you're doing a lot of the right stuff already, which is tough, because you're making the right equipment choices, you're making the right decisions, and it seems to be difficult. There's obviously one other bit that I probably should mention, which I think I mentioned in the Intercession guide, but I'll just mention it again now. Like, you are a volume-based team, so if you're wasting mission actions to open door to then only get a move and one shot, that's difficult. So if you know you have to move into the room, you probably have to accept the fact that you need to be getting those doors open. And potentially, one of the ways to look at it is if you sit back 2.1 inches from the door, so you move up to door, open it, and move back 2.1 inches, so that you're obscured, so they can't shoot you, but you can move 7 inches, and effectively 5 inches into the room and shoot 2 inches into cover, then it makes it really hard for them to charge you or get in contact with the door to then hatchway fight you, but you can actually move all the way into the room and shoot them. Those are my only bits of advice. Anything you want to throw in, Connor, having seen it from the Legionary perspective, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's just what you get for playing Intercession. Clearly there is no way to beat Legionaries. They're objectively the cooler team. So suck it up. That's what I want.
Yeah, well, I hope that's
it is tough. Like whenever we've played, it's a close game, isn't it? Almost a coin toss. Very similar sort of teams. Legionary's got an extra plasma on you. Some of them are quite tasty in combat as well. Difficult matchup.
And you don't win in melee. That's the other thing as well. Like, if you try and melee them, you just die because all their melee options are just better than yours.
Even the combat knife is better.
Yeah, like I don't exactly. Like, you get extra attack for some reason. So yeah, I don't really know if there's any better way of dealing with it. I think if you try those things though, that's giving you your best options. There's the security tack ops one. I'm a little bit 50-50 on. I do quite like Seek and Destroy. I like the fact that you can pick up points quite quickly if you get tabled. But maybe there is an option to play positional. But I think you do have to get those hatchways open, and you have to accept that they are going to kill a Marine in each activation, but you want to be killing a Marine in your activation, and it becomes a bit of a kind of weird initiative game. And you just have to avoid the double kills from like the champion. Like if they can charge you and fight you with the power fist and the grizzly trophy, and then shoot someone else, like that's just gross. So hopefully that was of some use. That brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you found something new or useful while listening, and if you did, throwing us a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the bell so you get notifications as soon as the next one drops. It really is the best way to help a small channel like ours. And if you can't wait and you do want early access, we have a Patreon where you get exclusive access to all our content ahead of time. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. So drop a comment below and we'll get right to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host Ryan. This has been Turning Point Tactics, and we'll see you next week.